Ladies and gentlemen, the Grandmaster title in chess is the most coveted achievement in the game. Maybe a close second and third place is getting to quadruple digits, meaning 1,000, or becoming world champion, which nowadays doesn't mean much because the best player in the game is not even trying to be the world champion. Now, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a world record that was broken yesterday here in early 2024, and it involves the Grandmaster title. A young man at the age of 8 years old, 6 months and 11 days, from Singapore by the name of Ashwath Kaushik, defeated a chess grandmaster in a tournament. And this is nothing short of spectacular. His opponent, 37-year-old Jacek Stopa, has been a grandmaster longer than this child has been alive. This is sensational. There have been instances of 9-year-olds and 10-year-olds beating grandmasters because those 9 and 10-year-olds end up becoming grandmasters in their early teenage years. But 8.5? Dude, at 8.5, I was eating chess pieces. I was like 1,400. My first grandmaster win was at the age of 20. This is scary. Now, my voice might also be scary. I did not smoke a pack of cigarettes before recording this video. I was just in Charlotte, North Carolina for 5 days, and the Charlotte air did this to me. Now, I was at a kids event, and I seem to have lost my voice. Hopefully, it's back tomorrow, so today you're going to get this guy. I don't know who this guy is, but I kind of find it funny that I sound like this. But I've been trying everything. But I'm going to drink hot tea. I'm going to have cough drops. My voice will be back tomorrow. Let's celebrate this ridiculous achievement. This was in a tournament in Switzerland, and Ashwath started the game with the move e4. Ashwath is outrated by 400 points, by more than 400 points, but his strength is clearly underrated. Likely he's more like a 2,300. Now, Jacek, you might look at him and go, why is he 2,350? He became a grandmaster 10 years ago, and then I think he doesn't really pursue chess professionally as much. So I think after he got the grandmaster title, he just sort of does whatever. He plays in random tournaments. He doesn't care about the game as much. So he's probably stopped training as much. Probably gets invited to tournaments, gets like free conditions, hotel, and just plays for fun in the game. Now, you see principal chess to start out. We have a Philidor defense is what this is called. Black plays solidly, e5, d6. This knight blocks the bishop going to d7. And frequently the way black plays is pawn c6, threatening an expansion on the queen side. Bishop sort of sleeps. This bishop comes here, black castles, and then decides what to do next. God, I hate sounding like this. White develops, black develops, both sides castle, nothing new or extraordinary. And now white plays h3. There's a lot of moves here. White could play h3, a4, rook e1, a lot of interchangeable transpositions that could occur. Black plays c6, which is a common idea. And now white still plays the move a4, a move they could have played last move, but very simply just trying to prevent black from playing b5. Now, like I said, black has multiple ways to set up, but Jacek chooses a5. a5 is known actually as a little bit more confrontational. So on the one hand, you know, the move stops and secures queenside space. However, you're going to weaken your own position, okay? And also, you can't really prepare b6, a6, b5. So you don't really get your key idea. So it's got pluses, it's got minuses. You're probably never playing b5, which is a common idea in this opening. But all right, he plays a5. Now, white plays rook e1. The good thing is for white, these three moves are sort of interchangeable. Like I said, you could sort of play them in any order. Now, black plays h6, another common move, stopping white from ever going to g5, also preparing g5 in the future. Also knight h7, knight g5, these types of ideas. And now white plays this move, bishop a2. All right? Bishop a2 gets out of the way of any stuff. So you put your bishop on the same diagonal, but you no longer will get hit by any of the black moves. Black plays rook e8, slightly destabilizing that pawn. However, the previous move h6 prevents knight g5, so black is following the plan. White plays bishop e3, has optimal development, and now black makes a slight inaccuracy by playing this move bishop f8. Now, it's given a question mark by Game Review, but the point is that black wants to activate the rook. However, it would have been slightly more accurate probably to take on d4 right now. And the idea is quite simply that now you don't even have to move bishop f8. You actually can move the knight to c5 or move the knight to f8 with the idea of putting something on the e6 square. It's a common idea here, knight f8 followed by bishop e6, trying to trade, activate the knight like this, knight e6 as well. So, but black plays here. The young man plays queen d2. The young man, 8 years old, plays queen d2. Black plays queen c7, keeping many pieces on the board. And now, rather than sort of lazily just bringing the rook to the center, because white has sort of followed the golden moves. If any of you are beginners, this is what you're taught in chess. You're taught pawn, pawn, knight, knight, bishop, bishop, castle, connect your rooks. The young man senses that the queen has left this diagonal, and therefore the knight can go to h4. See, a move ago, if he went for that, that wouldn't have worked because the knight would have been loose. There would have been immediate strike in the center, or knight here, and then the queen would have taken. But the second that the grandmaster makes a move off the diagonal, this kid pounces, 8 years old. Other dude has been alive 30 years more than this young man. Knight h4. The idea is to exploit the light squares in conjunction with the powerful bishop from the corner of the board. Black plays knight h7. I told you about that move a moment ago. It's one of the ideas of playing h6. You are now ready to meet this knight. And now white decides, is he going to play knight f5 or what is he going to do? If you play knight f5 now, it's a nice looking move, but black can very quickly try to trade the knight with that bishop that hasn't moved yet. Also d5, blocking the center, destabilizing the center as well. So instead of that, the young man puts his knight right here. Can't be taken, and the pin, and the idea is that in the future, he's just going to take the bishop, which is going to leave the dark squares of the black position unstable. It's actually really difficult to even get rid of the knight. So he doesn't have to take right away. Jacek here decides, all right, I'm going to chop the center. This kid is disrespecting me. And here, Ashwath can go here and have a dominant position. Already totally better. Very weak pawn. Rook d1, knight f8 an idea. Very curious what Jacek's plan was here, because black's position just looks very precarious. But the young man played bishop takes. Now he's got pieces pointed this way, but black's position still very resilient. And now knight c5. Now there are multiple ideas here. You can take the bishop. You can play queen here. You can start an attack with your f-pawn. You could just bring your rook. All those things look good, okay? However, Ashwath plays here. f4. That move makes a lot of sense, and I did just say it's an idea. Slightly inaccurate, but it's still a good move. The best move is this. And the point is your next move is taking the bishop and transferring the queen to start an attack. For example, b6, queen g3. If bishop b7, you just win. So black has to be a bit more careful. But instead of that, Ashwath says, hey, let me just bring another pawn into this attack and win some central space. And I've got many pieces pointed at my opponent's king. And f4, however, allows this. And now black is back in business. By removing this bishop from the pressure, black is no longer going to be under such a powerful attack. And the point is that if queen e3 was played, bishop e6 is not possible because of this, with the intention of playing queen g3, doink, doink, doink. But f4 allows bishop e6, and now Ashwath has extinguished a little bit of his own advantage. He still takes the bishop, takes, and now he plays f5, sacrificing positional ideas over here for an attack. I mean, you just played f4. Obviously, you have to play f5. but it's inaccurate. The idea f4, f5, instead of that, should have transferred the queen, the most powerful attacking piece, into the attack. He utilizes the pawn, giving up a little bit of positional chances. And the point is that now his dark squares are weak. So he's playing f5, he's getting a pawn closer to his opponent's king, but after takes, black is already doing quite okay with a move like f6, or with a move like knight fd7, at which point the dark squares are just under siege, and this is exactly what black wants. And now black is fine. And that's the problem. So instead of that, he should have kept his pawn back on f4, at least. But he's 8, all right? He's 8. So he's got plenty of time to learn. Anytime you move a pawn in chess, something gets stronger, something gets better, but something gets worse and something gets weaker as well. Like my vocal cords. Queen f4, natural move. We're going to have to get this rook back into the game at some point, by the way. And white doesn't really have that bite to the position, but he creates a threat. All right? Knight fd7. Knight d1. Interesting. Knight d1 is a deep idea. How do you activate two pieces at the same time? A better question is, how do you activate this rook without moving it? Knight d1. The idea of knight d1 is to bring this knight over here, or over there to trade, and it's also to bring the rook up and over where it really likes life. It's got a really great life on g3. It's also got a great life behind the pawns. You know, get a rook on g3 and start this powerful pawn attack, and you're like, black's defenses are an illusion. Knight d1 is a deep idea. Now, Jacek finishes the plan. However, he should have respected this, and he should have played b5. He should have made his opponent think about black's plan. The idea being take, and continuing pressure. It's tough to play that, because knight c3, knight d5 looks really good. But as it turns out, there's nothing there, and this pawn holding together the white position would fall. So Jacek should have played b5 a little bit sooner. He plays knight e5. Like I said, it's sort of just fulfilling the destiny. But now rook a3. And now the young man's rook doesn't have to go via the first rank. It goes via the third. And black senses the attack, so he plays king h7. The king is not going to play defense. The king is just getting off the g file, because otherwise the rook would have arrived, and the pawns look to defend each other, but they don't because of the pin. Absolute pin, so white would threaten this. But now black is rock solid. How are you going to break through this position? Well, knight f2. The knight is on the way. It's either on the way here or here. Maybe you're looking for a sacrifice. You see, Ashwath is 8. So he likes to sacrifice pieces. Queen f7. Now, Ashwath gets a little bit aggressive. Again, I've talked about rook g3. The computer for white already wants to stop any access to c4. It wants to play the really sad move b3. But like, no human can play that, because you just put the rook on a3. You bought a house, and now you're planting a tree in front of your windows? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? Okay, well, Ashwath plays g4. It's what I love. Children, and I'm not trying to like infantilize this kid, but he's 8, all right? The youngest player to ever be a grandmaster. When you're young, you don't have anxiety. Knock on wood. Some kids have anxiety. Depends on how they grow up. But when you're young, you're fearless. You trust yourself. G4. Like, an adult might, against the grandmaster, might go, that's a little bit loose, you know? But when you have the fighting spirit, when you have the confidence, G4 is wonderful. Because the point is, we're just going for it. And people don't like to be attacked. I don't care if they're 37. I don't care who they are. But Jacek plays the best move. That was the best move. It was to target the bishop. So now what? Well, queen d2. Queen d2. Now we defend everything. And it's a tough spot for white. The best move here for black is to play queen b4, threatening a queen trade. Black trades the queens, white never wins. It's just not possible. However, if white doesn't trade the queens, black has a really nice move, knight d3, cutting the circulation of the white position, hitting the bishop, and white's in trouble. The best line here for white is to take and allow this. Rook can't get into the game. Black is dominating the dark squares. White has a long defensive task ahead. Instead of that, Jacek plays b6. Very solid, but it suddenly allows white right back into the game. He wanted to defend everything. He probably wanted to play rook d8, but it's too slow. It doesn't demand, the position demanded something a lot faster, and that move does not meet the demands of the position. Now, Ashwath in this position plays king up. I guess he was trying to prevent knight f3, but that's also not the right move. He should go rook g3. Chuck the pawn. Chuck the pawn, justify your attack. But that's probably going to happen on the next move, king g2. Now, rook a7. Okay, that's interesting. Why rook a7 and not rook d8? I guess Jacek is like, well, I'm going to protect my 7th rank. And I'm going to put my rook right here, and I'm going to pressure this pawn. I don't know. I haven't spoken to Jacek, but he plays rook to a7. Now, also instead of rook a7, you can play d5. Like, you see your opponent is trying to attack you, strike back in the center. Very principled chess. Opponent attacks you on a side of the board, you strike back in the middle. Rook a7, h4. Still, Ashwath not playing rook g3. I really hope he does at some point. And now, d5. Very tense moment. The position is about to explode. You attack me on the side of the board, I'm going to open up the center. d5. Now we have b3 attacking the queen. I think this was always a concern for Jacek. He didn't want his queen to go out to a6. Right? And now queen b4 doesn't work. Because now my rook comes back and I'm solid. Everything is defended. It's different than it was a move ago. So, in this position, b3, black has an option to play here or queen b4, like I just said. Queen a6 is right, but it looks so wrong. It looks so wrong to get attacked. But the point is the queen can actually dart back into the game very quickly and immediately start pressuring white. But instead of that, Jacek decides, well, with no queens on, this kid's not beating me because he's not going to be able to attack me. He's right. The kid is not going to be able to attack him with no queens. However, when he played d5, he set the position on fire. The position is now guaranteed to open, and you need to be sure that the queenless game is okay for you. After queen b4 take and undeveloping, these pawns look a little soft. They're very close, right? The rook is going to come in. Maybe I don't even have to play g5 anymore. And now Jacek plays d takes e4. And suddenly the position begins opening up. Bishop takes knight. And when this happens, the position just transformed from A, B, C to nothing on A, B, C, C. Like in an email. Now white has an outside, protected pass pawn. This pawn is a menace in every endgame. It's a worse menace in a king and pawn endgame. It's a horrendous menace in a knight endgame. In a rook endgame, it's just as bad. So Jacek is in serious trouble. Knight takes e4. He has to deal with the queen side. He has to deal with this pawn. And I don't mean rook a5. This is putting the rook in jail. Then white continues the attack. This rook is never getting out of jail. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about c4. Active counterplay. Because if white just defends after take, there's a future in which you trade the pawns and the d-file comes alive. But instead of that, Jacek says, well, you know what? I'm going to lose a pawn on c5, but I'm going to take this because Then we're going to get into an endgame, right? And we're going to get into an endgame. He's not going to be able to attack me. But he blunders. Must have been low time. Not exactly sure. But he blunders. Knight g5 check. And the idea was never to take the pawn. The idea was a discovered attack. And he picks up the rook. This kid's 8. He's going to find these tactics. It's a little bit deflating that after such a tense position and opening up the game, that here Jacek plays this move, thinking that we're headed here. But he forgets that, I guess he forgot that a couple of moves ago, he got his rook off the back rank to double it. And then he blundered. And then he blunders. Knight g5 check happens to the best of us. And in this endgame, white just begins picking up the pawns. Rook d7, a5, the pawn just goes. You can give me check. You can get in with my knight and the rook. Look at that. That is so clinical from the young man. a6, a7. I told you outside connected, protected pass pawn is a problem. He just gets rid of the knight. Rook for knight sacrifice. This is called simplification. And the idea is to push the rook back to the corner. And this is domination. Now the king will just go across. Takes. King f4. And in this position, actually, Jacek Sztopa resigned to Ashwath Kaushik. And the point is that the king will take all the pawns, or king will just run right there. A tense game. A game where the young man went on a big attack, brought all his pieces forward against the Grandmaster, and in what I would imagine would have been a low-time situation, Jacek blundered. Because otherwise, this is sort of, you know, knight g5 check is sort of straightforward. I would hope he didn't have a lot of time on the clock, but that happens. And a great game nonetheless. A lot of pressure applied at the age of 8. And he wins, and he sets the record for the youngest person to ever beat a Grandmaster in any type of competitive game. Specifically classical, but I'm talking blitz, I'm talking rapid, anything. Crazy. And I look forward to this record being broken again. He is the second or third highest rated player at his age. Borna Shivanandan is there as well, from England, as well as this kid from, I think, Serbia or Slovenia, who last month defeated some Grandmaster as well. I will keep relaying all of the updates to you about these prodigies. And until then, I will go rest my voice. Now get out of here.